My name is Godfred Akutobuafa. Today's conversation is a different one because I'm trying to get to the heart of Ghana's railway sector. The reason why this is important because the President, Addo, has an Agenda 2020 to redevelop Ghana's railway industry. And one man has been put in charge of the regulation and the oversight of this particular project. His name, Richard Diedong, Dombo. A man under pressure or a man who is delivering? We'll find out on Face to Face. Richard, welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you, Godfrey.
Now, I discovered you were a lawyer who has spent the vast part of his professional career, not in court, but working in the railway industry. How did that happen?
Come on. Do I have to expose my life on air?
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? You can ask me this in private?
No, I wouldn't.
Well, when I finished law school, called to the bar, I barely practiced and relocated to the United Kingdom. Okay. It was ostensibly for a short period, but destiny is what destiny is. I mean, 1 year rolled into another, and before you realized, I've been there for as many years as I lived there.
It looks like you picked up a lot of experience in the railway sector. I realized you work for Southwest Trains Limited. And the experience seems to have convinced the government that you are the right person to oversee its agenda to overhaul the railway sector in the country. What strengths do you bring to this particular job?
I bring with me a 23-year working experience in the railway sector in no less a country than Great Britain. I mean, which is, to all intents and purposes, the leading railway country in the world, historically and currently.
And that is what makes you fit for the job. But when you came down and you were made the managing director or CEO,
chief executive
of the Ghana Railway Development Authority, what was the task? What is the size of the problem in front of you?
The task is, under any circumstance, called daunting, but achievable.
Okay.
Why? Because we're coming to revive a sector that was in a state of comatose. It needed to be given an adrenaline injection, waking up, shaking up, onto his feet, walk and run. So it's a phased system. I knew the challenges ahead, as in this was the task ahead. But in my mind, I know there's nothing that if you set yourself to it, your mind to it, you work for it, that you will not achieve. And certainly, the railway sector, especially with the right dedication, and the right dedication was demonstrated by no less a person than His Excellency, the President Akufo-Addo himself. First, in decoupling the railway sector from what was then known as the Ministry of Transport. With this decoupling and the creation of the Railways Development Ministry and a dedicated minister in the person of Honorable Joe Gatti, that complemented the role of my authority, the Ghana Railway Development Authority, which incidentally is about 8 years older than the ministry. So there we go.
Now let's talk a bit of specifics. Let me start from Accra because we are in Accra and then we will grow it from here.
Yeah.
The Accra and Sawam Railway, what's wrong with it?
What's wrong with it? It suffered from the same fate as the rest of the railway sector. Now, we inherited 946 kilometers of railway from the colonial administration. And onto that, no new development has been added. And not just no new development, but even that which was there was not maintained. Is it through lack of technical ability? Is it due to lack of focus? Or is it due to lack of resourcing? It's anybody's guess. But most definitely, resourcing is a big factor.
And do you have those resources in place? Because the Accra and Sawam Railway is dear to the heart of a lot of people. For a lot of traders who used to come into Accra, this was the best way of entering Accra. It hasn't moved in a long time. We've been given several assurances that it's going to move. What is the level of progress on this job?
The Railway Development Authority, in conjunction with my sister company, Ghana Rail Company Limited, who are the operators on the line, in conjunction with the sector ministry, Railways Development, decided in August of 2017 that we did not need to wait for a disaster to occur before bringing services to a halt on that line. That is the Accra-Instawam line. So we brought it to a halt. And the Railway Development Authority, the owner of the asset, signed a contract with Ghana Rail Company Limited, who by law are really operators. Nonetheless, they've got the personnel who needed to be engaged. So we said, why not try one of our own? So we signed a contract with Ghana Rail Company Limited to undertake the redevelopment of that line. And as far as I know, they have completed the Accra-Tema redevelopment. They've done the test runs. And in fact, right after this interview, I'll be going to Kantamanto, where there's a train waiting for me to go with my Director of Regulations and Assurance, because my authority, the Ghana Rail Development Authority, is both the developer and the regulator. We are the licensing authority before the Ghana Rail Company Limited can apply the routes. And thereafter, my director will determine whether to give it a clean bill of health and for service to commence.
This is the same route that has encroachers on it. And
same route.
This free trial was postponed.
Precisely. So
encroachers dealt with?
And that is why we've given a 2-week period. And you would have seen on the news yesterday that there's some demolition of structures, temporary structures, around about the graphic area going toward Aveno. These are people that have been given notice, that have been moved once, twice, thrice. This is the 5th time that you blink and they're in. You blink and they're in. You know, so we gave that 2-week period, you know, within which our task force will go back and re-demolish those temporary structures again, because railways and safety, those 2 words are a byword. In other words, they go hand in hand. You cannot have a functional railways with safety of the beneficiaries, because the railway is meant for the benefit of the people. So you can have a functional railway, which at the same time is a danger to the people that's meant to be benefiting. And the way to do it, education and enforcement. So of course, due notice have been given. In fact, the railway corridor, by definition, is 100 meters either end of the running line. But this is what you call an administration that has the human, you know, good also in our sights, in the sense that we're not enforcing that 100-meter, railway corridor that have been acquired for the Railway Development Authority by the colonial administration. We've gone down to as low as 50 meters away from either end.
That's a lot of compromise.
That's a lot of compromise. And even that 50 is being encroached upon. Not just by any, 1 or 2 meters, right down to the railway line itself. Now, it may have been okay at the time that the system was what it was, a grandfather system that was grinding to the halt that we finally brought it to in 2017, when trains were probably moving at about 5 kilometers per hour from Circle toward Kantamanto. This is a new era. What is the whole essence of the redevelopment? The redevelopment is to fortify the infrastructure to make it possible for trains to attain the speeds that they are built to attain. So, but you cannot envisage a train running from Kantamanto to Circle at 50 miles per hour with the mindset of the people that this system is dead. So there's a lot of work that needs to go beforehand, i.e. education, TV, radio, such as what we're doing at the moment. The president has lent his inconsiderable weight to the railway sector, where he's mentioned at many a place that the encroachment on the railway sector has got to stop. All hands on deck, AMA, TMA, MCs, DCEs, chiefs, all stakeholders, please let the people know that it is not a talk matter. It is a reality. The revival of the railway sector is here. With the revival of the railway sector will be the revival of the economy. Infrastructure is fundamental in achieving anything economically viable in any country. In fact, in the United Kingdom and elsewhere besides, in the developed world, the railway sector has been the engine of growth. Even the great industrial revolution was on the back of the steam engine.
Yeah.
So we cannot say enough about what the railway sector will do. Not only will it bus traffic in places like regional capitals like Accra, bus traffic such as from Kasoa to Medina to Accra, Kasoa to Accra, Spintex Road to Accra, Tema to Accra. The railways will cater for all that. we will have roads that are built to last. Because at the moment, what we have is these articulated vehicles carrying overweighted, containers from Tema Harbor, plying roads that were not designed for this kind of tonnage. You go to the Western Corridor, you see these huge vehicles belonging to Dangote of Nigeria, carrying, material for the manufacture of cement. Heavy vehicles, not meant for those roads. And because there's no corporate social responsibility in many of these instances, that you have these people making big money, spoiling infrastructure that has been built with, people's money, and getting away with it. Now, the railway sector is here to take away in the UK they say, let the train take the strain.
Okay.
It kind of rhymes. Let the train take the strain. So the train will be taking the strain of the roads.
Okay. Yeah, you talk a good game, Mr. Dombo.
Thank you.
And you seem very hopeful. And we know all these things. What Ghanaians are not hopeful of is that we've heard these same messages 20 years, 30 years. Every time there seems to be a lack of funding, there seems to be a lack of political will, corruption is an issue. Are these issues that you are confident are being dealt with significantly enough for you to make progress? Because 2 years into an administration that has promised to do almost 500 kilometers of railway lines, we can say you've not even done 100. Have you?
If you put it that way, I don't think it's very fair to us. I think you need to know what is entailed in real infrastructural development before you can make an assessment. So probably an occasion like this is an opportunity to learn.
Yes.
The rail infrastructural development is one of the most capital intensive you could ever envision. If I tell you that on average, it costs a minimum of about $4 million to construct 1 kilometer of rail. Now that puts that into context. In a country where our GDP is about $49 billion per annum, out of which agric, education, health, transport, defense, name it, derive